It was the worst crash we had had since the Great Depression. The world was going crazy, and I thought, man, my timing couldn't have been worse. So I went from football to the investment business. During that time, I wrote a couple of books on finances from a biblical perspective. I wanted to help people so they would not make the same mistake that I made because I was not taught the principles of money management.
Lee, it's so great to have you here at Leader Pass Studios. And man, it's been a pleasure learning about who you are and your background, but also this incredible value you are bringing to the world. So thanks for trusting us with it. And thanks for being here.
Well, I've had a pleasure getting to know you guys, and I'm looking forward to changing the world with you.
Yes. I want to talk about that.
Yes.
I want to talk about what things look like and what we're doing. But if you don't mind, will you give some context on people who don't know you of your background? Tell us about Lee Jenkins' early years and what you're doing now.
Man, well, I've some people say the jack of all trades, master of none, but actually, God has been good to me. I've had a varied and a diversified career. I would say the first part of my life was all about sports. Since I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a pro football player.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to be one of the top high school recruits coming out of Atlanta.
Nice.
And then I went to the University of Tennessee and played for the Tennessee Volunteers. I was a defensive back. And my college experience was great from a football standpoint, but it was also great from a spiritual standpoint, because that was the time where I recommitted my life to Christ.
Okay.
So I thought that that was going to be the way that God was going to use me. I was going to play in the NFL, make a whole lot of money, and I got drafted by the New York Giants, spent 1 year with the New York Giants, and then got out of football because I had to. Very disappointed. But the most disappointing thing is that little money I made for that 1 year, I didn't handle it well. So it taught me a very big lesson. But another thing I learned is I was close to New York City, Wall Street. So I would go over to New York, and I always wonder, man, what are these guys doing in these suits and ties?
And this is like 2000 and...
Oh my God, I wish it was.
A little earlier than that.
This was back in the 80s, like 1987. Okay. Well, actually, no, 1985, 86.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, I got in the investment business in 1987.
Wow.
Started a new career.
Yeah. So that was during that was right at the stock market crash.
Yeah, it was 1987. It was the worst crash we had had since the Great Depression. So, the world was going crazy, and I thought, man, my timing couldn't have been worse. But actually, it was the best timing because everybody who invested money with me got in on the bottom. And within 2 or 3 years, people thought I was a genius, which I wasn't.
Great timing.
Yeah, great timing. But I had a 25-year career in the investment business. So I went from football to the investment business. And during that time, I wrote a couple of books on finances from a biblical perspective.
Okay.
So I wanted to help people so they would not make the same mistake that I made. And that is, once I got a hold of a lot of money, at least a lot of money at that time, a $50,000 base salary in 1983.
Yeah, that was big time.
You thought you were kind of rich, back then. I mean, the superstars made a couple of $100,000 in the early 80s. But the bottom line, I had nothing to show for it because I was not taught the principles of money management. Although I was educated, but I didn't learn about money in school. Although I came from a great family, but my family, it was more about financial survival instead of financial strategy. And then thirdly, I didn't learn about money in church. There was no connection. It was just not taught other than giving.
Yeah.
So no wonder I didn't do well when I had it.
Yeah. It reminds me of that time, I was trying to think of what faith-based or a ministry side to teaching that. Was that like during kind of Larry Burkett early days? Because that's the only name I can think of from back then that would even be close to.
You hit it on the head.
Is that right?
Larry Burkett and a guy named Howard Dayton. Larry Burkett was, I think it was called Christian Financial Concepts.
Okay.
He's the dean of this whole Christian stewardship area.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy named Howard Dayton who started a ministry called Crown Financial Ministries.
Yep.
And it was a small group ministry. And then another guy named Ron Blue. Who,
that's the other name.
Yes,
that's what I was saying.
Yes, who was a business guy, a financial planner. And so all three of those guys I knew.
How about that?
And they mentored me.
Yeah.
And so I was very passionate about helping people grow their wealth, because that's what I was hired to do as an investment advisor, but to do it from a biblical perspective.
Very cool. So so is that where you learned some of those skills as it pertained to the biblical side of it, or were you just kind of digging in yourself, or both? I mean,
I would say I dug in myself, and I learned from those three guys: Ron Blue, Howard Dayton of Crown Financial Ministries, and most importantly, Larry Burkett. So between reading their books and between my knowledge of the investment business, then I'm going to throw a third thing in there. I've always felt like I had a call from God to teach, and to preach the word. But I'm like, man, I'm not a traditional preacher or teacher.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is preaching and teaching on finances. Churches would bring me in for conferences or even Sunday services to do sermons on finances. So I was just in my sweet spot. I was talking about money. I was talking about faith. And I was sharing my experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to finances.
Here's what I love about it. I love the fact that you weren't just taking principles. Like we see a lot of people who are like, we're going to teach you about how the Bible suggests you handle your finances, or, go through those skills, but they haven't actually been in, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying what I love about you is they haven't been in the real world actually managing those for others, especially. So that's a unique combination in my mind.
Yeah, I do believe it's unique because I have been around some incredibly wealthy people. I mean, that was my job, to go hunting for wealthy people, because I had to find folks who had enough money to invest with me. And the more money they had, the bigger my fees and commissions were. So we used to call it elephant hunting when we were in the investment business. And that is, we got to find out where rich people hang out, get to know them, build a relationship, offer our service, and hopefully make them a client. And so that became, my primary mode of making a living. But on the other end, I had a passion of teaching people, just regular folks, God's financial principles. And these people, most people weren't being taught that. So I had this passion, man, and God just kind of brought the two together.
And that took you through, because I know I want to talk about what you do now, even prior to what we're doing together with LeaderPass, but that led you to what? Did you keep that business going for a while as a financial planner and speaker? Or take me through up to that point. And then you obviously got called into starting a church. Finally, I guess a couple years ago. How long ago?
Well, it was 13 years ago.
So how did that happen? Because that seems like you're on this one trajectory, and then
wow, it's amazing. So football, the investment business for 25 years. And I thought during that 25 years that what I was doing would be what I would do for the rest of my life. I was an author. I had a couple of books out. I was obviously in the investment business. And then I was very active in the local church. I was an elder at my church. So life was good. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't call it all of a sudden, but gradually, I started to feel like God had more for me, that my impact and my time here on earth was supposed to be more significant. And so I wrestled with God. I had a feeling that I was going to end up pastoring. And one of the reasons is because everybody used to call me Reverend in college.
Oh, they did? That was your nickname?
Yeah, Reverend Lee. And I was the guy doing the pregame prayers. I was the president of FCA, and little did I know, I was really pastoring in a sense. Because I was leading Bible studies, and my mother and many other people used to always say, you're going to be a pastor. But I just, didn't really pay it any attention. So to make a long story short, when the recession of 2008, 9, and 10 happened. Now, remember, I had already gone through a tough time, 1987. But man, 2008, 9, and 10, it made 1987 seem like a picnic.
Wow.
It was devastating for the country. It was what we call now the Great Recession.
Yeah.
Well, that woke me up, Jamie. And it was as if the Lord said, do you want to spend the rest of your life building wealth for people and yourself and have it to go away? And it doesn't even have to be your fault. I felt like I wanted to do something that was more significant from an eternal standpoint instead of from a temporal standpoint. So I wrestled with God. 2010, after a couple of years of wrestling, I said, Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do because I know there's more. And I sensed that God was leading me to walk away from the investment business and plant a church. And that's what we did in 2012 with 20 people. And now we're 3,500 or so members. So yes, I stepped away.
That's a big step.
It was a huge step of faith. I mean, we downsized our life because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Those 20 people, I was like, well, maybe this is as good as it's going to get.
Sure.
You know, but God had bigger plans for me.
I love how we talked when we first met, and Martin was here, your son.
Yeah.
I don't think Tika was here maybe she was. You told me how you kind of decided to create the church by studying some other successful organizations. Would you mind sharing that? Because that was a unique approach, I thought.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I finally settled into this calling and stopped fighting God, so to speak, and just surrendered. And I remember asking God the question, Jamie, man, well, Lord, what was that last 25 years all about? In other words, if I had known I was going to end up being a pastor, maybe I should have gone to seminary and gotten a master's and a doctorate in divinity or something like that. And I didn't see the connection between me being a pastor and being a former business guy.
Okay.
I didn't see how the 25 years.
You thought it was two separate paths.
I thought it was two separate paths. And boy, was I wrong. Many of the business principles certainly related to the ministry world. In fact, I would say it helped me.
Okay.
So, and then I thought about the disciples. When Jesus got those 12 guys, he got them from the marketplace. So my experience in the marketplace helped me tremendously. And I didn't even know it would. So the way I organized the church was a little bit of a couple of things. Number one, I did study very successful churches because I had some friends who were extremely successful pastors. And of course, I talked to them, people like Dr. Tony Evans and another guy named Crawford Loritz and Andy Stanley, and I could go down the line. I'd known these guys, so I sat at their feet. Secondly, I brought a lot of what I learned from the business world.
Okay.
And then I'm kind of a organizational leader anyway, just in terms of my bent. So we started this thing, man, and God blew on it. And but it was gradual growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And the demographic, as far as where you're located, you're in Roswell, or is that where it is? And are you pulling business folks into that, or a mixture of different types of
It's a mixture, but I would say our core are business people.
Okay.
In fact, within the first year of our church, we only had about 100 people at the end of the first year. So it's not like, you know, we were setting the world on fire. But out of those 100 people, we had a couple of CEOs of major companies. We had a couple of entrepreneurs who were worth millions of dollars. And this was the best compliment I ever got during the first year of me pastoring. And it was a couple of wives who came to me and they said, "You're the first pastor that ever got my husband out of the bed consistently on a Sunday morning and got him off of the golf course."
Yes, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, because these were high-level executives, and they their weekends were precious to them, and they loved the Lord, but they just weren't active on a local church level.
Why do you feel like that was the case? Why do you feel like you were able to reach them?
They told me, and the wives told me, that I speak their language, that I had more credibility because I had walked their path. I understood their world, and I could relate the Bible to something that they could use in their everyday life. And I'm a practical guy anyway, because I always, when I first got started, Jamie, as a pastor, I would listen to some of these pastors, and man, they were so deep theologically. And obviously I wanted to grow from a theological standpoint, and I have grown, but I felt a little bit insecure because I didn't have that deep theological knowledge.
Okay.
But what I did have was practical knowledge of the Bible and the ability to be able to communicate it in a way where people could understand it and apply it to their life.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that that was a valuable gift.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so needed. And I can think back to that time, even after that, the Great Recession, as you put it. And especially then, it probably was even more like, how do we pull out of this? What do we do? How do we apply it?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about now, where you're at now, which is really exciting. And this idea behind your new program. I want to talk about two things. One is I want to talk about what we did on the first run. We got a couple more coming, but also who it's meant for and what you're seeing as a need out there right now for folks that are needing to hear what you're teaching.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm passionate about God's word. I'm passionate about helping people, and I'm passionate about money management, stewardship related issues. Now, we both know that money is not the most important thing in life, but money does impact everything that is important. So when we think about our families, when we think about our health, when we think about our businesses, when we think about ministry, there is not an area in our lives that money doesn't touch. However, as important as it is, a lot of us aren't taught about it in a very practical way. So the beauty of this course that I am launching is it is for any and everybody. You could be financially frustrated, and this course is for you. You could be financially functional, which is probably most people, they're making it, but they still aren't reaching their full financial potential. Or you could be financially free. And I believe that this course covers the gamut from struggling to people who are financially free. And what makes it unique, I believe, is how I was able to incorporate biblical principles of finance. And these are the very things that I learned from Ron Ballou and Howard Dayton and Larry Burkett and even Dave Ramsey.
That's right. I was going to say that earlier when we were talking about it, I don't think Dave was on the scene yet, or
Not
was he?
Yet.
Okay.
He learned from those guys just like I did.
Okay.
Yes,
That's
they
so cool.
inspired him as well.
Yeah. And now we're doing this in 2025.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the principles and the application ideas that you have are as relevant as ever now?
No doubt.
Really?
Maybe, what's interesting is when I was talking about this, 25 years ago, especially in churches, not a lot of people wanted to hear it. They felt like money was secular, money was carnal. That's not something that spiritual people talk about a lot. Even though all through the Bible, money and business and stewardship is one of the main themes. In fact, there are over 2,000 verses in the Bible that deal with how to handle money and possessions. 16 out of the 38 parables deal with how to handle money and possessions. So yes, I think right now, because of there's been so much wealth built, people have demystified the stock market and how to handle money. It's a common topic that everybody is interested in. And so I think now is a perfect time to teach people how to handle money, but how to do it without losing your soul.
Which is the name.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
What is the total name? What are we going with?
It's called Winning the Financial Game Without Losing Your Soul.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I love the money is sort of like a game. And I relate the whole course, the framework is football.
Yep.
Because handling money is almost like playing in a football game. You have an opponent. You have a certain amount of time. You have rules you have to follow. You have to do some pre-planning. You can't just wing it. And it's a battle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people lose the battle. They lose the game. And I try to teach people how to win. But one of the ways you win is by not losing your soul, which means not losing your values, not losing what's most important in life. Because as good as money can be, it also can be dangerous.
And you believe that's possible?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
I think one of the cool things when we sat down, remember we got together for the blueprinting session with our Leader Pass lab, and you were referencing Ron, was it Ron Blue?
I think it was Ron Blue.
And or was it Donald Miller? It was Donald.
Oh,
okay,
Donald
no,
Miller.
because we're talking about constructs.
That's right.
Remember we were talking about framework. So one of the coolest things that I think you did for this that I think people will instantly get relating to the game is putting on your uniform.
Yes.
So talk to me about, first of all, talk about what constructs are and why that's important. And I know we will have a mixture of people watching this and hearing you for the first time, as well as some who are like, do I have something in me that I can share? Yeah. And so I think this construct idea gave some handles in a cool way. So walk through what that means to you and then what you chose to do.
Well, I learned how important this is from Donald Miller. I went through a course that he offered, and it was a game changer, because when I thought about most of the books that have had the biggest impacts on my life, it was either a story framework like Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
That's all based on a story. Yeah. Whether it's fictional or not, it doesn't matter. He put it in a framework of a story. Or it is something that your mind can grasp very easily, like 7 Habits of what's it?
Highly effective people.
Highly effective people.
Yep.
7 things.
Yep.
You don't have to think about 12 things. It's just 7. So I was looking for a framework, something that I could take these wonderful principles and put them inside of something where people could understand them very easily. And I just happened to be reading, I believe it's Ephesians chapter 6, and I was reading about the armor of God, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith. And boom, I got this idea. Just like the Roman soldier has equipment, football players have equipment. Yep. And I said, man, what about if I relate financial principles to a football player's equipment?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of brainstormed for a couple of days. And so I came up with this framework of a football player's equipment, and each piece of equipment represents a financial principle that we have to learn how to master.
Yeah. And I love the way you did it, because we have a lot of ladies on our team, and you had in the room with us, and it was like, is this going to be too guy centric? And it's not at all. I mean, it's just a construct, like you said. It's something just you can point to a helmet. Everybody knows what the helmet's there for, and you just go through the whole from the pads to the pants to the shoes. And so I think it's brilliant, and I think it's going to help people remember, big time.
And they'll learn a little bit about football too.
They'll learn football.
That's right.
Some of those that may be in the SEC or aren't big Tennessee fans may have to look at some orange some point. There was a few moments where it's like, all right, here we go. But it's an excellent, easy to follow, but just really rich and deep in the principles.
And then I thought about football. I said, it's the most popular sport in America, and the Super Bowl is huge. So even if people aren't big football fans, everybody has a pretty decent knowledge of football. And so I just took each piece of equipment and related it to a principle of finance.
That's awesome.
The helmet, shoulder pads, jersey, pants, cleats, football, and then just the whole issue of hustle, how you have to give all out effort if you're going to be successful.
It's great. And I think one of the things I want to just mention or talk about as people are visualizing what this is, and we'll link to it so they can find it, but the difference between this in my mind and a course, we've used that frame, we've called that course. And I think courses sometimes end up sitting on a shelf.
No doubt.
And they collect dust. And it's like, oh, I'm going to learn it. And then you kind of forget about it and you go back. The way that the Leader Pass is laid out and the way you've done this, which you've been just such a great person to go, just tell me what's working. Remember we had the conversation, like, how do I talk for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and you're a guy who can deliver a sermon. So you got it spied on and can deliver the whole thing, but you were willing to go, how do we break this into micro lessons? And I think nowadays, not just because of social, which we're going to talk about in a second with the stewardship coach, but the fact is, it's not that the content can't hold up for that long. It's that our time's fragmented.
Oh, no doubt.
People are busy. People are distracted. But the way you lay this out with the playbook, the workbooks, the sheets that you have the ability for a couple to sit down and kind of go through, but the micro lessons lets people dip in and out.
Yes.
And you kind of take it at your pace. So talk about just that, the freshness of that.
Yeah.
And that is something that's not like a classroom.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
That's right.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah. Well, people's attention spans, including my own, have gotten really narrow. So we have to teach people in a way that they learn best. And so we broke up all of these 7 pieces of the equipment of a football player. So we have 7 primary financial principles that we'll be learning, and which within each module, which represents a major financial principle, we have probably anywhere between 7 to 13 micro lessons, which are only 4 to 8 minutes or so
they're brief.
long.
They're brief.
Very brief. And I just hit it hard. And then but it's not something that you just listen to and say, okay, that was good. We have a workbook. You have to work through some of these things. If you're married, you have to talk to your spouse. If you're a parent, you have to talk to your children about it. So it's something that you learn, you listen, and then you do a practical application. You have homework. And then we're even going to have a small group component. You can do it as an individual, or you can do it within a small group context.
Yeah, which is excellent, because then you get to kind of bounce ideas. I think we learn in community and in groups. There's times for us to kind of break away and focus, or a couple, knowing what that feels like to go, you got to be on the same page.
Oh man.
And do you face that? I know you consult different organizations. You have counseled couples. You guys both do, you and your lovely wife. But what do you see when there's that? Because people are bringing past into this equation in a couple or in a marriage like that. What do you do when you have somebody who thinks, because then we talked about this, like they look at finances differently because of what they were raised in, but is this kind of going to help ease those to more alignment, or how do you see that happening?
No doubt. So, another course we're going to do is a course for married people, but married people with this flagship course will benefit greatly. So the bottom line is, let's just talk about marriage. Opposites attract, but opposites also attack when it comes to money. But that's a good thing, because most husbands and wives, not attacking is not good, but it's good that you aren't the same, because we're meant to complement each other, not to necessarily be the same. But money issues are one of the primary causes of divorce. So the beauty of this experience is you have to talk, and you have to do practical exercises. And we ask questions that are going to pull some things out of you, because money is more than just dollars and cents. It incorporates our history, our philosophy, our future, our goals. It touches areas in our lives that a lot of things don't touch. And so it's not just about money management. It's really about managing our life. So I believe that this experience that people will go through will help families, help marriages, help entrepreneurs, help corporate executives, help young people, help people who've probably messed up some, and maybe they're in their 50s or 60s and they feel like they are behind. I believe even for those people, they will be
so
encouraged.
Foundation for new couples, as well as
no doubt,
or individuals as well as older.
No doubt.
It's funny because I think about pastors, and I think about over the years, and you and I kind of talked about this one time, because I asked you directly, when people who are not used to hearing from, integrity-based, faith-based leaders, and they hear money come up. In the back of their mind, what are they thinking? They're thinking, all right, where's my, I gotta watch my pocket. Right. There's a weird feeling with that. And I think over the years we've seen, and we talked about this, just ups and downs of confusing things, and even some amazing leaders who have changed their tune. We don't need to name names, but also setting people at ease with the idea that this isn't, Lee Jenkins, the pastor, who's now going to say, and by the way, you can send your tithe to this to this email address to our church. Right. Talk to me about that, or what's your perspective on that now in life?
Well, I want to go back to a previous question you asked. One of the ways that this experience can help people is most people, no matter how much they're struggling or how successful they are, need a coach.
Okay.
Tiger Woods had a coach.
Yep.
Michael Jordan had a coach. Some of the greatest business executives in the world have a coach. So I call myself the stewardship coach because I'm here to encourage people and to inspire people and to push people to reach their maximum potential as a steward. Okay. So that's very, very important because people have to realize we do need help in order to be the best we can be.
It's the stewardship coach.
Yeah.
On that note, you guys set up, I guess, on social. Was it on Instagram?
It was on Instagram.
And like how long? Not long ago.
It was God, a little bit over a year ago we started this.
And the idea of that was just to give some bites of wisdom, or
little nuggets, little snippets of biblical financial wisdom.
Yeah,
just some things that I marinate on.
Yeah,
and I wanted to test the market to see. I knew people were interested in money. And building wealth. I wasn't sure if people wanted to hear about it from a biblical perspective, because a lot of people don't even know that there's a biblical perspective. And so I tested the market, and it took off.
Yeah. Yours is one of the only accounts I've ever seen when we were together. And I don't know if it's your son or the other guy that was here. And he was like, okay, so here's stewardship coach. And it was like 180,000 followers. I was like, man, that's great in a year. Way to go. High five. And then we like looked at one or two of the videos. I'm like, is that like 5 million people who had viewed it? And then like, not just that, but it was like 50,000 likes. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so you remember when I turned and I said, so did y'all? Because I mean, look, there's lots of ways of gaming social media.
Yes, that's right.
And I think the proof is that y'all didn't do that at all. There's been no traffic bought or surge. It's literally people responding to this message.
All organic, no ads, no paid anything.
Yeah.
Just 100% organic and 100% God.
Yeah.
Really.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And people just resonated with it.
Yeah.
So now over 300,000 followers a year. And we just started it a little bit over a year or so ago.
It's awesome. Main thing is the engagement. That's what I love to see.
Engagement is huge. And the comments are huge.
Are dynamite.
Yeah, man. So it's really been helping a lot of people. A little pushback, but that's because people aren't used to talking about money.
Okay, so like give me a pushback.
Well, they would say, as a Christian, you're not supposed to be concerned about money.
Interesting.
Okay, they would say that we're only supposed to be concerned about heavenly things. Well, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, Jesus talked about money a whole lot. In fact, so much so to where he related our spiritual lives to how we handle money. He said, where your treasure is, there is your heart also. So there's a strong correlation between what we do with our money and the state of our hearts.
Yeah.
So it's all through the Bible. He ran into the rich young ruler, told the guy to give away all of his money to the poor and you'll have a treasure in heaven. Now, that was not a universal call for everyone, but he knew that man had a problem, and that man's problem was money.
That's so funny. So it's people letting people are going to do that, I guess, and push back. But the reality is your stewardship approach isn't like you're not preachy and attacking, and you have such a good demeanor when you're in person anyway and on stage, but it's definitely, it's hilarious that's still,
but it convicts people. It because a lot of people, they view money as something secular or carnal, and their spiritual life is over here, their money life is over here, and they haven't married the two. So some people, they push back because they aren't used to hearing both of those things integrated.
Right.
Yeah. But here's one of the things I do. I say, do you pray? Do you worship? Do you fast occasionally? Handling money and stewardship is a spiritual discipline. It's just like praying and all of the other things that draw us closer to Jesus.
Some people watching this will associate any talk about money coming from a pastor or a minister as, okay, when's the ask coming? When's the call to action where I got to send in my tithe? Right. So how do you view that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm so sorry. My heart breaks because so many people, leaders, have abused the whole money thing. And mostly it's been toward giving, instead of helping people with 100% of their money, which includes giving, most pastors, most Christian leaders, you only hear about the giving part. And that comes across selfish, it comes across self-serving, and people basically think that they are a charlatan. So I'm kind of climbing uphill a little bit.
You are.
I mean, because I'm talking about a subject that's sensitive. I'm integrating biblical or faith-based principles. And then I happen to be a pastor myself.
Yeah.
But I think what makes me different is one of the reasons people trust me is because I talk about holistic financial stewardship, not just giving. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I am really committed to their financial well-being, helping people. I'm not trying to get something from people. I'm trying to get something to people. I'm trying to help people so that they can maximize their stewardship potential. And when they stand before God one day, they can hear, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." So I'm a coach. I'm pushing people like a football coach would. Every now and then I may, rub you the wrong way because that's what coaches do. They challenge you. But then I'm going to encourage people, and then I'm going to stretch people so that they can think bigger. So I'm approaching this like a coach who is imparting something in people, not like many pastors who have approached this subject by taking something from people.
Right. That's a great distinction. And I know that if you think about you're helping and even doing some consulting with churches, organizations to help them understand how to do anything from, I guess, capital campaigns that they have or their community. Talk to me about that for a second. And do you think that if more leaders adopted that approach, now I know this is your approach, it ties into your history and who you are. Do you feel like that would be a step in today's culture to a little bit better place to where it's more accepted by coming from pastors when they talk about finances like that?
No doubt about it. Well, I am very committed to not only helping just the general public manage their money better, but I'm also committed to helping church leaders and church executives manage better. Because churches, even though we're not a business, it should still be run like a business when it comes to finances. Okay, the principles of the accountability, all of that, and many of them aren't. But some of that is because they don't know how, and then nobody is talking about it. So what I want to do is equip pastors and church executives on how to manage the resources that come in the church. And there are primarily 4 ways I help do that. Generally, the first one is just general financial management. And that's very similar to what businesses do. You got to watch the top line, the revenue, which comes from giving, which means you have to have a healthy culture. Then you got to watch the bottom line, which means you have to manage expenses. Then, of course, fundraising, and that is having a culture of generosity, how you have to create that. And that starts with good teaching and preaching on the subject. Too many pastors either operate in extremes. They either beat people over the head with money and giving, or they're so quiet about it. And I'm saying neither one of those perspectives are healthy. And the next 2 things that I help churches with is real estate related issues, facilities.
Okay, yeah.
Because some of the biggest mistakes that churches make are surrounding real estate, buying, selling, leasing. And then lastly, financing, meaning when they get loans for real estate, how do you do that in the best way? How do you prepare to get a loan? How do you pay it off over time? What's the plan? And so I help churches through these issues. And it's been very rewarding.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's just a ripple effect from that work.
It is.
Which is absolutely amazing. Lee, man, it's been, just so fun to sit with you and talk. You're a blast to work with. The results that I think are going to come from the lives change from this new message is just dynamite. Of course, I'm going to make sure that people can link to your Leader Pass where they can engage with you, maybe get a little bit of a free preview, even kind of enter into your world. I'm a big believer in that, and letting them see it and taste it and feel it. And so that will be there. But let's talk about where they can find you, engage with you. Where would you send people if they want to learn more about what you're doing?
Well, I think the best place is to go on social media. My primary platform is Instagram,
Okay.
and they can find me at The Stewardship Coach. So that's my handle, The Stewardship Coach. You can find me there on Instagram or TikTok.
Okay.
And then they can always go to my website, which is kind of my hub, which points people to a lot of different places. And that's LeeJenkinsStewardship.com.
Okay. And we'll link to that in the description in the notes of this. But man, I want to do more with you.
Yes.
Let's do this again.
Let's change the
I think,
world.
you know what I think would be cool? I think it'd be great is if you and Martika did this.
Yes.
I think I know you're talking about launching podcasts and having some of your friends and guests in. And I think you facilitating that's just going to bring out so many amazing things. So I want to encourage you to do that.
Thank you.
We've loved working with you.
Well, I love working with you. I'm looking forward to this flagship curriculum, how to win the money game. And then we're going to do something for married people. We're going to do something for churches. How about this? For teenagers,
Let's do
for
it.
children,
Let's do it.
for entrepreneurs, business people.
Yeah.
I believe folks are hungry for good, solid business and financial wisdom.
Awesome.
That's undergirded with biblical principles.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
All right, man. Thank you.
Up high.
Appreciate you, man.
Yep.